Hey, Joseph here. If you are seeing any of my content for the first time, please be a subscriber, as they say here on the YouTube platform, and all the things that they want you to do: comment, like, share, turn the bell notification on, all those things. I'm getting in the swing of these unscripted talks. There's a lot that I'd like to talk about right now. Based on the title here, first, I'd like to start off with a quote. It's a well-known Buddhist quote that loosely says, "Desire and ignorance is the root cause of all suffering." Now, I'm not here to promote or diminish Buddhism or any of the wisdoms and teachings within it, because it's a belief system, and anything that anybody believes is true is valid. However, there are a lot of think pieces and interpretations about what this means in relation to what it literally says. And this can create some complication in how people receive this statement, but also it ties into the theme of what I would like to talk about here. If I can get through the wind blowing directly into my face and hopefully not blowing too much into the microphone. It's important to know that a lot of our society has an Amelia Bedelia complex. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Amelia Bedelia series, it's about a character. She takes metaphoric expressions and make them literal statements. Like, for example, if she's asked to dust the furniture, she would literally sprinkle powder on the furniture to create dust. Or if she's asked to change the bed sheets, she would literally get scissors and create and cut a design in the sheets, and therefore the sheets are changed. Or if she's asked to dress the chicken, she would literally put a dress on the chicken. And although that may be funny, on a psychological level, that is the state of a lot of our thinking. We are literal creatures, so when things are metaphoric, we often won't see the meaning in it, or we will interpret the meaning to fit into our personal logic. This statement of desire and ignorance being the root cause of all suffering is a literal statement. This literal statement depends entirely on context and your level of perception of the context. And so what is the context here? The context is the human experience. And the human experience is one big contradicting paradox. And so the paradox here is that opposite expressions are existing at the same time. They are meant to exist at the same time, which means we are meant to have desires and no desires at the same time. We're meant to be ignorant and self-aware at the same time. Now, the friction is in whether that is the root of all suffering, or is it simply just a contributor to the suffering? If it's the root of all suffering, then it would contradict the paradox. But based on the nature and the context of the paradox, it would not be the root. If the intention is to not suffer, then there would be attempts to detach yourself from desire, detach yourself away from what would be considered ignorance, without even realizing that detachment itself is a concept of attachment. You are attached to the idea of detaching from something that you are by default attached to. And so the root of all suffering would literally be up to your personal interpretation. In other words, perhaps the need to control the way and the outcomes is the root of all suffering. And so this need to control is rooted in an attachment that your relief and your happiness and your joy and your peace is somewhere over there and not where you are right now. This is what breeds these attachment style theories, such as an anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, a disorganized attachment, and a secure attachment. And so because attachment is a part of the human paradox here, then it's not about detaching from a specific desire or person or place or thing. It's about creating a secure attachment style within your experience of it. This is what brings us to this idea of obsessing. Obsessing over a person, obsessing over a place, obsessing over a thing, obsessing over a circumstance. And oftentimes when we talk about obsessions, we relate them to romantic experiences, but it's really involved in every connection that you make. Every connection that you make is actually an attachment. And so in the attachment, you see the reality of something, but you also see the potential of something. Again, this is the paradox. Often when you've experienced some form of misery, some form of suffering, some form of pain, some form of disappointment, some form of grief, then the intention is to feel good and not feel the pain. But the intention is to not feel any of the thing that you don't want to feel. The intention is to hold the space for what is wanted and what is unwanted, what is desired and what is undesired, for what is ignorance and what is self-awareness. This idea of obsessing is simply you not feeling safe enough in your own body to hold space for all the things that you desire, for all the things that are undesired, so that you can be more deliberate about the thing that you desire. And so when you're in this obsessive state, you create stories in your mind about what you think things should be, how you think things should go, just so that you can feel comfortable enough in your own body to not have to deal with the disappointment of whatever is not going the way that you want it to go, or whatever you think might go in a different direction than what you want. And then what ends up happening in this state of you creating this internal story, you connect with something or someone or a circumstance, and then you begin projecting that story onto them as if they are the ones that's responsible for meeting your expectation. This is what creates a very extreme attachment, or an emotional and a mental attachment, rather than a secure attachment, which would be a fully embodied experience for you in relation to them. So you create this mental and emotional checklist in your mind to force them into that story. And if they are not cooperating, then it's a problem. If they're not going along with it, then you're disappointed. When they aren't catering to your need, then it's time to reinforce the story. And what you end up creating, here's the thing, more suffering. When your focus is too much on the story and less on the reality of what's actually going on, then you suffer more. You create a series of events that will give you more reasons to suffer. And then you blame God, the universe, and all the benevolent forces in the cosmos for things not going your way. It has little or nothing to do with anything going your way, and more to do with you cultivating, experiencing, and exploring joy in whatever comes your way. This is an act of self-care. And that's the reason self-care is so paramount. And self-care is not to be confused with going to the spa to get a mani and a pedicure, going on a resorts cruise somewhere to get away from the noise of it all. Those things create ways to feel good, but it wouldn't be considered an act of self-care. What self-care really is being able to sit, to meet, to greet, to communicate with the parts of you that you feel like you've got to run away from. Meaning those shadows, that grief, that anger, that frustration, that disappointment, those disempowered states of, those disempowered thoughts, those disempowering feelings. Being able to sit and greet and meet those things so that you can create empowering patterns to regulate your nervous system, regulate your digestive system, connect with your breath, speak positive affirmations, implement positive activities so that you can manage the conditions of whatever comes your way. Because here's the thing that most people aren't saying. The default condition of the human experience is suffering, meaning it's a very traumatic experience, which means you will not get rid of trauma. You will not get rid of suffering. You will not get rid of pain. You will not get rid of grief. That is just as much a valid part of the experience as the joy, as the healing, as the empowerment, as the peace of the human experience. You see the paradox happening again? Now, if you've got two opposing expressions existing at the same time, what do you think matters the most here? What you are giving most of your focus to? And so in the space of developing these empowering patterns, you are now training your brain, you are training your body to focus more on the things that make you feel good, to focus more on the activities that make you feel good, to focus more on the people that make you feel good. So that this becomes a gateway for you to soften your mental and your emotional attachment to the stories that you created in your head to protect yourself from the things that don't make you feel good. That's the reason that mental and emotional checklist exists, because you're protecting yourself. Because you don't want to be hurt again. You don't want to be abused again. You don't want to be betrayed again. And this process has little to do with that not happening again. But when your focus is there, you are literally creating that event to happen again. But the whole point of sitting with, greeting, and meeting the things that you don't want, you are allowing yourself now the space to make peace with it, to soften your attachment to it. And when you soften the attachment, then you are now cultivating a secure attachment so that you don't forget the experience, but you are no longer mentally and emotionally invested in that experience, so that you open up space in your mind to create a completely different experience. So come what may, you'll be okay. How you know you'll be okay is because you're taking care of yourself. You're cultivating empowering patterns within yourself. You're listening to your body, listening with your body, listening with your mind. And notice that I'm saying listening with these things and not listening to them. Because when you listen to your mind plays tricks on you. When you're listening to your heart is deceiving. But when you are listening with your mind and listening with your heart, it becomes a collaborative effort. You're able to see the messages that are in the deception. You are able to see the messages that are in the twisted logic, so that you can take responsibility for your role in it. And when you take responsibility for your role in all of this, then you can commit to a completely different way of showing up for yourself. And when you commit to this different way of showing up for yourself, guess what? The obsessions become less, the attachments become more secure, and you're able to live a more joy-filled and a more fulfilled life. Now, I'm going to stop on that note. And if any of that resonated well with you, let's talk about it in the comment section. Let's expand the conversation. Subscribe to the channel, share this video, and in the meantime, in between time, be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself, and make the best of this right now moment and the right now moments to come.